Thank you, sir. Chris will be joining us near the end of this, but it's good to be here in front of everybody. My name is Swicegood, and no presentation today, I'll be honest with you. Kept putting it off, wasn't sure exactly what was going to be in it, and now here we are. But I'm just going to be authentic, talk to you from the perspective of a 27-year-old, very young. Am I an expert? No. But what you're about to hear is a perspective of a young person that grew up on a computer. And then now here we are today. The internet has changed so much in the last 10 years in some really great ways and in a lot of not so great ways. Back in like 2011, 2010, maybe it's nostalgia, those rose-tinted glasses, but that's when the internet was just so fun. It was less monetized. Less monetized and more about collaboration. But I think we can get back there. So the main takeaway, there's a few main takeaways I want y'all to have. But the biggest one that everyone in this room needs to understand is you are critical infrastructure. You are. When we think critical infrastructure, we may think water plants, energy production, oil and gas, schools, hospitals, but nonprofits are considered critical infrastructure by the Department of Homeland Security. This morning, we were speaking with our business advisor in FEMA, and we asked him the question, what would you want to tell this room of nonprofit organizations if you were here today? What would you want us to tell them? And he said, it's your connections. The people on your board, the people you serve. It's your biggest asset, but it's also your biggest liability. I'm going to explain why and how hackers leverage that against organizations. And another big takeaway is that not taking action isn't a luxury any of us in this room can afford anymore. This country, I'm not trying to fearmonger, but this country is in a state of all-out cyber warfare. We're attacking other nation states are attacking us, and unfortunately, regular people, everyday business people and community people fall in the crosshairs. I'm going to get into some stories about businesses you wouldn't think need to care about cybersecurity that lost everything. But I do want to also say Arkansas is weird. It's a really weird place. Grew up in Russellville my whole life. And like I said, I grew up on a computer playing video games, not really caring about getting outside or doing anything in Arkansas. And I wanted to move out west for a long time. Got married, had a few kids, and also woke up to the fact like, whoa, it's cool. It's really cool. But in the past couple of years, especially after meeting Chris over there, who you'll get to hear from at the end, I realized it's also really important to the economy of this country and the infrastructure of it, from oil and gas to the lithium industry moving in. I think last week or the week before, I went to an event here in the, whatever that big room is called, Fort Smith and fighter jets. You'll have this F-35 program. That's crazy. And so all of this great stuff is going on around Arkansas, and you're connected to the people that are involved in these projects and organizations, so therefore you're a target, unfortunately. But again, we're going to talk about the fact that you have access to funding, or at least you did, and I truly believe you will still, but the federal government's kind of going crazy right now with funding, and you have access to opportunities. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about myself. For the past 4 years, been running a business. I have a 4.5-year-old, I have 3 kids now, one on the way. And I got into e-commerce marketing, working with businesses online from my computer. Got really burnt out with that. I just saw this big tech machine that people do find success with and is important, but it's a machine. You know, Christina's presentation was really good, and there was only one thing that I didn't fully agree with. I partially agreed with it. And she said we have low attention spans. And I've said the same thing. I'm sure everyone in this room has said or heard the same thing. Kids these days, they don't know how to pay attention. That's kind of true, but all of us, not just the kids, we are the product of this big tech machine designed to capture your attention and sell your attention to advertisers. So it's a kind of a war, right? And we're just kind of the victims of it. I truly don't think we have low attention spans because I see people, old people, young people, all sorts of people focusing on projects that they're passionate in, putting their energy and time into it. So that doesn't mean we as a species have low attention spans, I don't think. It just means that something is happening to it. So we're going to talk a little bit about big tech today, too. 2 years ago, I stopped my online business, burnt out, depressed, had no purpose. I just knew I needed to work with people physically. So I found my way to the Co-Create Innovation Hub in Russellville. That's opened up recently, which is kind of like the mill here. It's Russellville's version of it, really. And I started to find purpose. I found purpose in the people I work with, like Michael there with the camera, Chris over there, and people who aren't here. I found spiritual purpose. For years, I didn't believe in a spiritual meaning to life, right? But I found that. And actually, I have a Bible verse written down here, Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom of God, which I'm pleased to say that the team we have, that's all we're doing. And it's not about converting people to a religion, but it's about connecting with people, helping people. So after I met Chris, my cybersecurity awareness was probably where the average person's is. We know we're supposed to use a unique password for everything, right? We probably don't. I know I didn't. Maybe some of us use a password manager. We think we're doing a little bit better, but we haven't changed the password to that thing in forever. That was me too. And Chris is a very intense and passionate guy. That's why I'm talking first, because he would get into a lot of the technical details. He's a cybersecurity expert, long history in it. And my job has been to kind of take all of his information and soak it in, figure out how to give it to everyone else, because it's a lot. And I'll ask him questions sometimes like, man, this doesn't look good. It looks like the world is run away on rails. What do we do about it? Sometimes the answer is, I don't know. And that's not a great answer to hear, but as we talk about it more and we put it into the dictionary of our words and our society, we'll figure out the solutions. Tim brought up something a minute ago, and you said something along the lines of, it's surprising how often this stuff happens. And the reason it happens so often in terms of ransomware attacks and hacking and exploitation is because the technologies that we use, all of them, all the applications you use in your day-to-day life were built with making money first in mind and not making it secure. And that's why we have this problem. We just didn't anticipate the issue that we were running into. Let's talk some about the organizations that have been hacked and how that happened and why you are considered critical infrastructure. Let's get into some examples. So there was this tire shop in Arkansas that, a tire shop, you don't think a tire shop necessarily needs servers or infrastructure, right? But they accepted credit card transactions. And therefore, everyone that accepts credit card transactions in this room is under some sort of regulations. We don't have to get into that, but you're probably not meeting them. You're probably being fined for it. There's ways to save you a little bit of money, but whatever. You can Google that later. But this tire shop, routed their payroll through QuickBooks or whatever it was, some sort of online system. We're not going to get into a ton of the details because this is a real business. But over the course of 18 months, $288,000 was siphoned out of their accounts. And I believe it was some sort of employee benefit account, so they didn't notice it for a long time. It wasn't affecting their day-to-day operations. And then when they realized it was way too late. They had to shut their doors. There was another instance of a daycare, one with only about 40 kids, a small daycare. And a daycare is dealing with a little bit of data, not a ton, maybe not a ton of medical data, but maybe what pills these kids need to take, what times, and they're administering these. And they were hacked. Come to find out, they weren't adhering to any of the regulations they needed to for that body. So once that happened, insurance came in and said, we're not going to pay you anything, basically. Insurance is very, very good at that. And actually, I believe in January of this year, they took out cybersecurity provisions completely from the general insurance plans. So the only way to get that now is to pay a lot of money. The cheapest we've ever heard of was for a nonprofit cybersecurity education group, and that was like $35K a year. And they're educating people on this, so they have much more favorable rates. So why are nonprofits a target, it's because of your network's supply chain risk management. Who here thinks they don't, it's okay, you can raise your hand, you don't really need to worry about cybersecurity? I don't collect any data. I was talking with this one nonprofit, and it was just like one lady running it, and she had a board, but she helps foster families receive clothes. She's like, I don't store anything. But she has an email address, and she interacts with these foster families. And I asked her, so what do these foster families do? Are any of them business people? She's like, oh, yeah. Boom, you are a target. Because if I wanted to target that guy's tire shop or that roofing company or whatever project they're working on, you are going to be the weakest chain in this link. It's how the Colonial Pipeline hack happened, rolling blackouts, gas prices striked up because a law firm in Australia, a lawyer had access to some stuff within a court system, and he clicked a link. That link sent out to everyone else, and then next thing we know, here in Arkansas, we have to pay more for gas. And Texas is experiencing rolling blackouts. It's pretty crazy, actually. And this stuff just happens all the time, even in Arkansas. A few weeks ago, Forest City School District ransomwared for $450, something like that, $1,000. Forest City School District. Like, I'm sure it's a great place, but it's not known for being wealthy. You know, it's not like Bentonville. Imagine that happened to Bentonville or Little Rock or here in Fort Smith. That'd be quintuple the price. And it happens all the time. It's happened in Pope County, not to the schools, but to the sheriff's department and to a lot of other offices, and it's just crazy. And that can all happen with email. Email is the easiest way they get in. So let's talk about some good stuff. You as a nonprofit have access to funding. I'm going to say have, and it's kind of up in the air right now. But the reason I'm confident enough to come up here and tell you I think you're still going to have access to it is because me and Chris, especially Chris, we listen to these monthly Department of Homeland Security live streams. They're really long, and it's just like a hearing. But they're all saying the same thing. They're telling us what's coming down the pipeline. Cybersecurity is the biggest concern for this country, and they don't want to stop funding it. They're going to find a way to get the money there. And they want to give the money to y'all to protect yourselves because they know it's not good. You know, they know. And right now, it's a carrot on a stick, but eventually, it's going to become a stick where you're going to be punished for not doing it. So there's these enhancement grants over the last couple of years that you can apply for through FEMA and the CISA. FEMA was just gutted, though, so that's why I say, you know, things are going to take a second to stabilize. But Chris over here has connections all the way to the top in the CISA, in FEMA, and then we work with people on the county level to get you a grant up to $250,000 for cybersecurity. That includes infrastructure, training, also physical security, security cameras. If you're a house of worship, you're also applicable to this. You're also considered critical infrastructure. And that can cover like armed security guards. So it can be used for a lot of things within the realm of security. And 10% of that can be applied to whoever administers the grant for you. So that's how Chris's company, Arctos, facilitates this process. So we're actively in the process of working with, let's say, close to a dozen nonprofits right now to acquire this funding. We want to see as much of that come to Arkansas as possible. In 2024, there was like over $1 billion across these two grants federally. So there was a lot of money there, and I think there will be too. So let's go transition just a little bit. That's one opportunity available to you. There's another one I want to get to as well. So that's cybersecurity. And I was kind of talking a minute ago about big tech. Like my background is in marketing, trying to tell stories, trying to connect people with people. And big tech is a great tool. Like Facebook's a good tool, but it's not built for us. It's built for the people with money, people with cash. There's only so much real estate on your screen. And those reels, they take up the whole thing. You know, they're designed to serve you the most compelling content to keep you on the platform and to make money off of you, even if it's content that doesn't directly impact your local community. So for months and months, I've been thinking, how do we fix this? How do we do something that's in our power to help solve this problem? The problem being local businesses are losing. It's not because they're bad. They've done a great job, but the landscape has changed so much. We've put all the power in the big guys' hands, And one algorithm change, you think you're doing good now, maybe you are, happy for you, but one algorithm change and it could be you're back to square one again. You got to refigure this out. So it's not a good situation. So last 18 months, how do we fix this? Our first idea failed horribly, but it's beautiful because we learned from it. I was like, well, maybe we can take all the businesses in Russellville and put them on a website. Maybe that'll be some sort of value add for people. But truth of the matter was, nobody used it because who cares, right? Like maybe the people that are really into their downtown or their town would use it. So we did that, and we learned from it. We're like, okay, there's kind of something here. And over months, and especially meeting Chris and getting plugged into programs like Cyber and hearing about these funding opportunities, we're like, okay, there's a way we could do this. If we're going to get users on our platform, whatever that platform looks like, we need to somehow impact them, probably financially, like the average shopper in Fort Smith or the average shopper in Russellville. How do we get them, instead of spending their Casey Rewards points or their McDonald's points, going to the local burger shop, like if it's a matter of convenience? And it came down to we got to save them money somehow. So that is exactly what we're working on right now in Russellville at first, and we're excited to just figure this out, and we consider nonprofits to be excellent partners in this. So we've built and we're continuing to roll it out in Russellville a way to reward shoppers for shopping locally. And there's precedent for this working in 30 different states. There's people that have already done similar ideas with success. So the way we're going to reward shoppers is by when you engage with a local organization, whether that's a nonprofit or a business, the shopper will be entered into a giveaway to win an experience or a gift card. And making it easy to, and it's kind of ironic because we're using a lot of the playbook of big tech with dopamine hits, right? Like making this thing rewarding to use and gamifying it to get everyone on board, but ultimately it's to get them in your organizations and interacting with your services. So some of these like grand prize giveaways we're rolling out, skydiving, horseback riding, cabin getaways, partnering with nonprofits that provide these services. They contribute the prize, and in exchange, we facilitate that and market it. So what I would like, well, I skipped one part that I do want to say. Like, going back to the problem for just a second, like this whole thing of we're given the control to the big guys. Why is that a problem? Well, if nothing changes and local businesses continue to struggle and lose, like so many, I've only been really plugged into my town for 2 years, but I've seen it over 24 times now, and it's heartbreaking. Seeing a guy being passionate about the burger he cooks, but now he's working at the restaurant in Walmart because people didn't know he existed. That's what's at stake. Real estate shifting to the national corporations, dreams dying, towns becoming hollow. That is what is at stake. So let's see here. Before I said what's at stake, where was I at? Anybody help me out here? Well, here's what I would ask everyone to do, and then we'll bring up Chris to answer some questions, and y'all can ask questions either about the economic side of it, which would be the platform, or the cybersecurity end of it and how your organization can benefit. Go ahead and write down my email or type it into your phone, and I can send you information, and we can help you apply for this grant. There's no cost to you for this grant, and tell you more about the opportunities I've been speaking of. So my email is TAL, Tango Alpha Lima, at RV is in River Valley, townsquare.com. Just shoot me an email, subject line RVNP, something like that, and then just I'm interested, and then we'll be in touch. But Chris, go ahead and come on up here, and I'm sure some people have questions about either aspect, so who wants to go first? If not, I'll let Chris tell us what you've done in your work history. We'll start there.
All right. Thank you. So, I'm Chris Grauel. I do a lot with cybersecurity, and I am very passionate about what I do. This passion and intensity has led me to doing a lot of stuff with the military and doing a lot of things for my home, which is Arkansas. I grew up in Pine Bluff, so Pine Bluff has been fun. Coming out to Russellville was a little bit different than Pine Bluff, but home is home, people are people, right? So on the front end, let's talk about offense and defense a little bit. I do a lot of hacking, a lot of hacking, specifically for military projects, counter UAS, so counter drone technology, anything related to drones, Kansas City encountering innovation events, talking to U.S. Special Operations Command, Department of Homeland Security, Science and Technology, related to quantum encrypted communications channels, radio comms, anything like that. Doing pen testing as a service. There's a lot that goes into cybersecurity, and there's a lot that goes into offense and defense. Namely, so June 17th, I believe, I'll be in Washington, D.C. talking to a ton, like Amazon, Google, or not talking to, but attending a panel for software resilience with DARPA hosting the event and talking about how to mathematically prove and secure software by design. So Tal talked a little bit about that. Originally, I went to school for software engineering, so computer science and mathematics. That's where my passion, or that's where my gift is. I enjoy programming. I enjoy looking at everything from that lens. And he said, what he said was true. When you got a team of 6 developers and you're paying, what, $100+ an hour for every developer, and you need an application now so you can get your return on investment, secure by design isn't really the first priority for any organization. We need our returns ASAP. And I get that, but here we are. I have a lot of work ahead of me because of that business model. It is what it is.
Yep. And can I add one thing to that?
Yep.
AI, which we're about to hear a great presentation on it, has changed the world so much, it'll continue to. There's this whole movement now of people creating applications. Let's define applications real quick. QuickBooks, Stripe, Canva, Kit, basically any website you use is an application. Now they can make them with AI. I've done it. And then Chris was over there creating, like, man, I just made this thing with AI. And he showed me just how many vulnerabilities are baked into these things. There can actually be malicious code in the AI. If you're prompt, it's going to cause a cybersecurity industry boom. So much money is about to be made in securing these applications. And then unknowing people like us, we're going to use them, not know how they were made. And, anyway, I'll let you go back to it, but I wanted to say that.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest things between me and Tal. He is very techie, and he says he's not a cybersecurity expert, but over about 11 months, a year, he's doing a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't do with cybersecurity by default now. He's thinking about, all right, well, I just vibe coded this entire application. How can Chris break it? And that's typically what we talk about a lot, right? So he's doing very well in cybersecurity. He's doing a lot of good work. So offensively, that's where ARCTOS is in the front lines. That's what I see day to day. That's what I see the military combatant commands coming down. And how is that applicable to the home state here in Arkansas? So I believe actions speak louder than words. So what I currently do here in Arkansas is I am the CTO of Immaculate Heart of Mary. It's a private Catholic school, about 135 children. And I did moonlight as a youth pastor for a Baptist church last year, so that was an enlightening experience. But protecting houses of worship, protecting the children, that's the easiest way because, these kids, they download some Fortnite hacks, they go home and their parents work, for a bank. Maybe they're banking executives. Maybe I see a lot of that on the network at the private school. I see a lot of attempts. I see a lot of stuff being sent to student emails. And it is terrible. But, any way that you can get some Bitcoin, you can fund whatever war you want across the planet. It is what it is. I can exchange Bitcoin for USD anywhere. So that's how I bring the knowledge from the front lines back home and apply it in a meaningful way to me, protecting the children, protecting houses of worship, and coming and protecting nonprofits. The services that you guys do for the community is amazing, genuinely. You guys help a lot of people. And I would hate for all of you to become, I wouldn't say victims, but become targeted by specific nation states, groups, anybody that would just seek to exploit your network. The network that you guys have spent decades building, just to be exploited for some war somewhere in some country that I can't even spell. But now, hacking is making more money than the drug trade. 9.5 trillion last year. Drugs brought in 7.6. There's people in Italy right now hacking school districts, making 6 figures as a service. I can go online and pay $30 a month to target any organization, ransomware as a service, email campaigns. 99% of the breaches that I see or business email compromises, however they want to do the statistics related to it, it's all coming through your emails. All of it. Almost all of it. 99 point something percent. Some ridiculous percent with the Verizon data breach investigative reports. So, that being said, there's hope. There's a lot of work. As he said, I am working with FEMA, Homeland Security, and we are genuinely doing a lot of good work. There's a lot of cybersecurity initiatives that nonprofits, houses of worship, and even for-profit organizations have access to. And I implore you to go out, look for them, contact us. We'll tell you exactly where to look, and we'll help facilitate all of it. That being said.
Yep. So.
Question. Are you ready for questions? Or?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. No.
So as a nonprofit, says, hey, I'm not going to play with this. Do you have like an intro to where you allow nonprofit? Okay, you look at your situation, look at all your communications. Here's what we would propose you need to do to get yourself to a more stable situation. And in vulnerable areas, do you have a platform that nonprofits? Because honestly, I'll tell you, being in North Arkansas, most nonprofits under $500,000 budget aren't even thinking. I mean, we know it's a problem, we're avoiding, but we're very vulnerable. And so sometimes it's in the simple how we communicate, staff trainings and stuff like that to help us. We're doing all this other stuff to focus on the people we're trying to help. Yet this thing's sneaking up underneath us, and we're scared. And I'm thinking this grant, we talk about something to educate, support us, so that we don't let this giant stay hidden. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Could I answer that? Yep. So he asked, for those in the corner over there, how can nonprofits be educated on it and understand the risks that you're facing? Part of the grant application process, we perform a scan of your infrastructure. As far as education, that's a great point I kind of missed. Part of this town square project we're working on, for any nonprofit that is a part of this, which just email me about it. We're not charging you money. It's more of a mutually beneficial business. Part of it is education, providing you those educational materials. How do you talk to your team about how to manage, should you give out your passwords, that kind of thing. So, yes, sir.
At the end of the day, I mean, I come in here, I can walk out of here, oh my God, this guy scared me to death.
Yep.
I can walk out of here and say, you know what, I'm gonna go back, talk to my board. We're gonna schedule a meeting with, if it's your service or service like yours, to get this thing under control. Because we're actually looking strategically, our organization, communications is a problem. Email is an issue. Communication with people or donors and stuff, a lot of them don't even get those. We massively do this work. They're not getting it from me. Everybody wants to use a cell phone, but nobody wants to take risks. I mean, so it's almost like we need to be educated and help to try to make the transformation need to be done internally when it's a pain. It's not like something that we're excited to do.
No, security is not fun. And we're probably out of time. We can do more questions at the end, but I'll say security isn't fun. And let's talk more about it at the end. There are ways we can help and things you can do. Thanks, sir.
Let's give these guys a hand. Thank you, Tal and Chris. My takeaway from that presentation and knowing that cyber attacks are only on the rise, and it's going to be a whole nother level that we can't even comprehend in just a short amount of time. So for each of us, it's not a matter of if we're ever going to have to deal with this, it's a matter of when. And so your choices are to be proactive or reactive, and I can promise you the reactive option after it's happened is not going to end well. So take a proactive stance on this, talk to the experts about what you need to do and how you need to do it. Dedicate a little bit of time, a little bit of resources to it. I think it'll be money well spent. So thank you guys for the presentation.